Hi, this is Ernesto Burden, publisher of Military and Aerospace Electronics, and I'm here with our editor-in-chief, John Keller, who is going to take us through some of the top stories in military and aerospace electronics this week. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you? You like the nice new black background?
I do. It looks good. It looks good. It's better than the bookshelf you had there last
Yeah,
week.
I think it is too.
Although an empty bookshelf does, it has a certain sensibility to it, a sense of portentousness, of waiting to be filled with something deep.
I don't know. I think a filled bookshelf would be a little better.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, before we get started, one thing I did want to mention is that thanks to one of our team members here for pointing this out, it's National Aviation Day today, which I think we ought to take a minute and observe.
Well, I'm pretty embarrassed because I didn't know it was National Aviation Day, and someone told me that it had something to do with one of the Wright brothers' birthdays, but I couldn't swear to that. What do you know about National Aviation Day?
I know only what Wikipedia just told me a second ago, but I'll go ahead and lay that on you. National Aviation Day was established by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1939. He issued a presidential proclamation and designated the anniversary of Orville Wright's birthday to be National Aviation Day. So Mr. Wright was born in 1871. And he was,
It was 1939. Well, I'm glad it didn't commemorate the disappearance of Amelia Earhart 2 years before.
that might have been in less good taste.
I guess so. Well, I don't know. Maybe Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he had questionable taste about some things.
So,
Not on martinis, though.
well, that makes up for a lot of other sins.
I guess so.
Okay, let's jump into it. The first story that you've identified is an intriguing one. Raytheon to develop UAV-killing laser weapon small enough to fit on Joint Light Tactical Vehicle. Is the heart of this the size of it, or the fact that it has enough power to take a UAV down?
Well, what's really going on here is it's going to be not only the size of it, but also its ability to operate on the move. Now, the Army has the Army and the Navy. They have some weapons-grade laser programs going on. The Army is primarily interested in lasers that can literally shoot down incoming artillery rounds, incoming mortars, incoming rocket-propelled grenades, things like that, and they want it to be fairly fixed asset, this laser weapon that would protect formations of troops. This program here, it's not an Army program, it's a Marine Corps program, and the Marines are not about operating in fixed sites. The Marines are all about operating on the move, and so they want a weapons-grade laser that you can fit on the JLTV, which is essentially going to be a modern-day version of the Humvee. So you've got this Jeep-like vehicle that's very maneuverable, very fast, but still that would be able to operate with the Marines as they go ashore and with the Marines as they're maneuvering on the battlefield, that would be able to take out things like unmanned aerial vehicles. And I think that they ultimately would want this laser weapon to have the capability to neutralize incoming artillery rounds, rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, things like that. So it's all about mobility. It's all about packaging this laser weapon in a small enough package, and the JLTV is going to be operating primarily off-road over very rugged terrain. So you need a laser weapon that's going to be able to keep its beam on the target when that vehicle is moving over very rough terrain, and it's going to be a very interesting program.
Now, this brings to mind for me another question, which is, what is the most powerful laser weapon that's been developed to date, I guess?
You know, I think the most powerful laser weapon that's been developed is something that a program that's not going on anymore. It's essentially been abandoned. I can't remember exactly. I think it was called the airborne laser, or the ABL, and this was a laser weapon that was mounted in a Boeing 747. Huge chemical laser weapon and that was designed originally to be able to detect and destroy enemy ballistic missiles in their boost phase, which means right after they had left the launch pad. The idea there is if you can take out a ballistic missile in its boost phase, you wouldn't risk a missile that would be able to deploy several different warheads on different targets, or the MIRV technology there. That hasn't been around for a few years, but that was a tremendously powerful laser, also tremendously big, ungainly, tremendously expensive. So as it is right now, the Army's focusing on more of a tactical situation of being able to safeguard troops, and so the Marine Corps wants to do the same thing. They want to be able to have laser weapons that operate on the move, fast, maneuverable, that can take out UAVs, other relatively soft threats like that.
Okay, John, I'm getting a clicking from you from somewhere. Is that on your side?
I think it might be.
Okay. That sounded almost like typing.
I think this is what it was.
Oh,
I'll put the pen down now.
Thank you. The next story that you've identified is Army. Oh, wait, I want to back up there for 1 second, though. The clicking had distracted me. With the laser weapon. So what's in the field right now? If we wanted to see a laser weapon in use somewhere, could we?
No, I don't think we're there yet. I think probably the first service that's going to have deployed laser weapons is going to be the Navy. The Navy is working on shipboard laser weapons as a ways to defend against anti-ship missiles and small surface boats, potential terrorist vessels, things like that. So I think they're going to be first out of the gate. I think next we'll probably see the Army with wide area protection, and then not far behind them, I think we'll see the Marines, with this tactical laser mounted on a JLTV. But there's nothing actually out there today. Now wait a minute. Let me back up. The Navy, I think, does have a laser weapon on a ship. I can't remember what the name of the ship is, but I believe it's on a 9-month deployed type evaluation, and I believe that's probably at sea right now. But it's not something that is out of research and development and is deployed with the rest of the arsenal. It's still very much in development.
We'll have to check into that and report back next time. I'd be curious to see it. Okay, the second story is Army asks BAE Systems and General Dynamics to recycle GCV Vitronics for future fighting vehicle. What struck you as important about this story?
Well, what struck me as important about this story is these are tough days for armored combat vehicles. There have been a lot of cancellations. The Ground Combat Vehicle, or GCV itself, was to be a brand new replacement for the Bradley fighting vehicle, something that was somewhat lightly armed with a cannon on top that would be able to take soldiers into battle very quickly. But it was a very large vehicle. It was 70 tons, somewhere around the size of an M1 Abrams main battle tank. It also was starting to cost too much, and the Army decided to cancel it, I think, earlier this year. Now the GCV, before it was canceled, was something that sprang out of the Future Combat Systems program. That was also something that was canceled, I believe, back in 2009. So essentially, what the Army wants General Dynamics and BAE Systems to do, these companies were developing the ground combat vehicle before it was canceled. They essentially want those companies to take the technologies that they developed, Vitronics technology, propulsion technology, electric drive technology, and to make some determinations on how this technology might be able to be reused in a future armored personnel carrier that I believe they're calling the Future Fighting Vehicle, or the FFV. What's interesting here is even though armored vehicle programs, they tend to get canceled with some regularity these days, they tend to live on in some way, shape, or form. Usually with with whatever technologies that companies were paid to develop, and they are trying to apply that to future systems. The Army, I believe, is saying that they may have their requirements right this time for the Future Fighting Vehicle. It's not yet a program of record. It's just a concept that's in development. But where the ground combat vehicle was a great big 70-ton vehicle, I think the Army is saying no more combat vehicles that are over 30 tons, because they're saying, the kinds of urban battlefields they're expecting in the future, they're just not going to be able to accommodate these great big, Cold War type armored vehicles like the Bradley and like the M1 Abrams tank.
So this is sort of the Prius of armored vehicles.
Well, that might be a good way to put it, because like the Prius with its hybrid electric drive, I think that the Future Fighting Vehicle might end up having something that is somewhat similar to that. Now, I believe that General Dynamics or BAE Systems, or both, were developing hybrid electric drives potentially for use on the ground combat vehicle. Now, whereas the Prius, you want to use that type of technology for fuel economy. What the Army and the military are really interested in is they want a vehicle that will be able to operate on with fossil fuel like diesel fuel, something like that for long-range use. But also they want an all-electric drive, to be able to switch to all-electric drive for silent, stealthy operations, things that times when they might need to surreptitiously move at night and things like that, where they don't want to give their position with the sound of roaring diesel engines. So it'll be interesting to see.
Right, and of course the other difference between that Future Fighting Vehicle and the Prius is the Prius has fewer cannons.
I think the Prius does have fewer cannons, and it might be somewhat lightly armored, although the Army is putting forth the requirements for relatively lightweight vehicles. So who knows? We may see a Future Fighting Vehicle that might even be lighter than a Prius. We'll have to see.
So the last piece that you had identified for today is the Air Force is asking the industry to seek out new ways to protect computers and embedded systems from cyber attacks. Obviously, this is very top of mind. Go ahead and give us the details on this.
Well, the Air Force is reaching out to industry. It's not a formal solicitation yet. They're just looking for information on different ways that they might be able to safeguard not just the large computer systems that are used for command and control and things like that, but this was one of the first instances regarding protection from cyber warfare that I've seen that specifically is talking about embedded computing. I think one of the things the Air Force is particularly concerned about is the potential for hacking into unmanned vehicle systems, and for an adversary potentially to be able to take over or steal an unmanned aerial vehicle when it's in operation. So there's a tremendous number of embedded systems and a growing number of embedded systems that are out there on the battlefield, from wearable computers for the infantrymen to networked rifle sights to unmanned vehicle control, remote unattended sensors, things like that. And the Air Force is acknowledging, I think, perhaps for one of the first times, that these embedded systems that are out on the battlefield could be tremendously vulnerable to cyber warfare, hacking, things like that. And so this program, it's not a program yet, but it's this request for information has to do with the capabilities for cyber resiliency. Once again, a big emphasis of that is on not only protecting computers, particularly embedded computers, from cyber attack, but to also come up with procedures, technologies to help these systems recover from potential attacks. So I was heartened to see that, because you know, once you start thinking about the kind of havoc that a large cyber attack could have, you know, on deployed military forces and here at home, potentially with banking and logistics and you know, food distribution, things like that, it gets very scary. So I'm glad to see that the Air Force is really starting to think about safeguarding embedded systems and standalone large computer systems.
Who are some companies that are doing interesting work in that field?
Well, I think some of them are like General Dynamics Information Systems would be one. I think all of the big ones, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. One of the interesting things to watch when it comes to that is these large prime contractors will be partnering with a lot of other companies with very deep expertise in different levels of cybersecurity and cyber warfare. So I think some of these teams, based on requests for information like this, some of these teams might be forming as we speak, and there's going to be a lot of expertise involving not just industry but also academia that will come to bear on this problem.
All right. Well, it would seem that some of the probably the biggest powerhouses in terms of figuring out how to protect themselves would be the antivirus type companies, the big consumers of say data storage and of internet traffic, like Facebook or Google, right? Or these massive companies that or Amazon that spend you know, gosh, I wouldn't even hazard a guess at how much they spend on their own security measures. Do they have a role to play in something like this?
You know, I think they really might, because companies like Amazon, Netflix, large banking firms, people like this who have a huge economic interest in keeping their data safe from cyber break-ins, that type of thing. I think that there's probably a good amount of cybersecurity technology that's been developed in private industry that the military might be able to leverage for programs like this. You're going to have data rights and other proprietary type of data issues there, but I think there's probably a fair amount of data security, cybersecurity technology that the military will be able to take advantage of.
Well, let's hope so. And on that note, thank you very much, John. Thank you, everybody who was watching. We're going to wrap up for today, and wish you once again Happy Aviation Day.
Happy Aviation Day.
All right. See you later.